May I ask both of you, Samir and Meghan, because we're having a very active discussion around this kind of within the state. What's your decision-making process with regards to somebody who may need ECMO at this particular point?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have, so the sickest patients and the ones who might be ECMO candidates are still going to our main surgical ICU in the adult hospital, which is sort of the pathway that they would have always followed. The last time I checked, which was a couple of days ago, I think we had only cannulated 2 people. Okay. I think maybe a total of 3 people have been cannulated. The first one was an ECPR. So we're keeping ECMO on the table, but I think it has not been utilized very much. I think what we have seen in our patients, and obviously it may be a little bit different across the country, is that the age range of patients that we're seeing is anywhere from the high 20s up to, I think we have a 90-year-old in the RICU right now. But particularly the younger patients can have significant comorbidities. Morbid obesity is sort of common across the board. And we have younger patients coming in very, very sick with significant comorbidities and are being deemed fairly early not to be good ECMO candidates. So we have not used as much ECMO as I thought that we were going to just a handful of cases at this point.
Right, because in New York, because of the density of the patients in New York City, it's become a statewide discussion. And the data from China did not support the use of ECMO. But then I think there was some thought that since I believe the Chinese data primarily looked at VV ECMO, thinking that this is just like ARDS of the H1N1 kind of flavor, but it's not, because of the myocarditis and the myocardial dysfunction that occurs. And so the question, that we would have is, in a young patient, what is the, number of days that they've been sick? Because from what I hear, day 14 or so becomes kind of it's kind of like you're stranded on, on life or death sort of thing. It's usually you're gonna die after day 14 of intensive support. And whether or not, before then, young person, not a lot of comorbidities, VA ECMO would be offered. And I didn't know if there was a central, kind of decision-making process, because we're kind of grappling with that issue at this point as we prepare for our surge.
Yeah, I've not been as much a part of the ECMO conversations. You're right. They're sort of, I feel like there are kind of 2 populations of patients, and obviously we're only seeing the ones in the ICU. But certainly there's that sort of period of time, day 4 to 10, 5 to 10, where they seem to sort of be doing okay, and then they kind of crash, and they crash really hard, and they need to go on really significant vent support, tend to have pretty significant hemodynamic issues, acute renal failure. What's interesting, what we're seeing is a lot of thrombosis and thrombotic complications, and patients who, as soon as they get intubated and we go to put in lines, and they've already got clot in their IJ, and wow. Never having had any instrumentation. So we're empirically putting almost all of our patients on heparin drips, with also some thought from some of the H1N1 experience that we had of just thrombi within the lung parenchyma as well, that was seen on the autopsies. And so we've been really aggressively anticoagulating a lot of our patients. I wonder if ECMO would be a little bit more difficult too, with all of this concern for being so pro-thrombotic. I don't know, Samir, if you have any thoughts about the ECMO experience.
Yeah, so overall, the ECMO experience that's been published has been pretty poor. It's only about like a 15% survival rate. We have a standardized process around like ECMO evaluation and having them being sent to the surgical ICU right now. But like Dr. Arnold said, we haven't seen a lot of patients go that route. We have found that like all of these patients are very different than any other ARDS that I've seen. They are profoundly hypoxic. very high PEEPs. Proning works great. Early proning, even if they're not even intubated yet, still works, very beneficial. I don't really know the pathophysiology of this, but it almost acts like they have PEs, and they respond to FiO2. But in order to keep their FiO2 below 60% or below 50%, we've been basically using the ARTSNet protocol and keeping them on high PEEPs, low tidal volumes, and all of them have been responsive, but it's like they're on the ventilator for 3 weeks and on very high PEEPs and very difficult to wean that PEEP. Each like 2 degree change in PEEP, like going from like say, I don't know, 18 to 16, all of a sudden they de-recruit, and then you have to re-recruit them, put them on higher PEEP, and it takes them like a day to recover. Even when they're about to get close to extubation and you do a pressure support trial, we do spontaneous breathing trials to see how they're doing. If they do poorly, it takes them a day, like you just skip the next day and then retry them the day after because it's taken a while to come back. So in terms of ECMO, I agree with you. I don't know if VV would be the way to go or not, because it could be microthrombi in the lung. At the same time, like I would probably start with that rather than trying to do VA in this population. The other thing is, though we've had a lot of success getting people extubated and through the process, we've also seen quite a few of patients who've kind of gone the palliative route. And what you find is that it's like, if you're 80 years old, multiple comorbidities, and then you are thinking, gosh, this is not improving. As soon as we've had discussions with families, they've kind of tended towards the route of, listen, I'm not sure ECMO is going to be the way to go. So that has something to do with it as well.